show because we have a great next hour ahead of us. And I'm actually going to turn my moderating duties over to the fantastic Coffee on the Moon with the Galaxis girl, Inara Tabir. I think I said your last name right. And if I didn't, then please let me know because I don't want to make a mistake. But Inara
that was close enough.
Well, Inara is a science communicator and aerospace connector. She is the president of the Multi-Planet Society and the executive director of Gaze in Space. And her work focuses on bridging the public and the industry to secure our future. Coffee on the Moon, in case you're not familiar with it. If you love coffee, great. If you love space conversation, even better. It's part of our new monthly segment. And if you missed part one last month, you can find the recording of the live stream on any of Foundation for the Future's social media channels. Now, in the monthly segment, Inara will be holding interviews to discuss our monthly topic and how through this topic of reference, we can work together to be a multiplanetary society. So, Inara, welcome. Also, a very happy birthday as she's stay with us today, which we're so excited. And she's got two fantastic guests, Irina and Marcia, and I will let you take it away.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I can't think of a better way to spend my birthday than having a coffee with a bunch of spacers. So hopefully next year we can do this on the actual moon, but for now, we've got the right company at least. And I'm really excited about today's guests. We have Irina Litchfield and Marcia Sadler. Marcia, am I saying that right? Is it Marcia or Marcia? I think you're muted.
You're on mute, Marcia. And it's Marcia.
Thank you.
Marcia.
Thank you. Perfect, Rebecca. Perfect. Great to see your great big smile.
Marcia, thank you so much. So Irina is a principal at SVS, Premier Minority-Led VS, focused on space and dual-use technology. With a deep-rooted passion for exploring new frontiers, Irina brings a wealth of knowledge and insights to the forefront of the global innovation stage. With expertise in financial strategy, crypto industry, new space, Irina has held executive positions across private, public, and nonprofit organizations. Marcia Sadler, she is a connector who lives at the intersection between finance and entertainment. For the past 30 years, she has served individuals and creative enterprises and created opportunities between investors, technology, and most recently, private space initiatives. Welcome both of you to Coffee on the Moon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I got my cup. It's the little baby Yoda, so I figured it qualifies.
It does, absolutely. So Irina, I want to start with you. Talk to me about how you got into the space side of things. Finance is, I think, probably one of the most pivotal aspects we need to cover in space these days for sure, as we become more of a real industry. What was it that led you to this intersection of finance and space?
Well, I really appreciate that you pointed out that finance is what we really, really need. And Rick Tomlinson invited me to join Space Fund as an advisor, and he thought that I have a great insight that the industry would benefit, and I graciously accepted. Though I said I'm not an astronaut, and I can't beat a rocket. You know, I'm not a scientist and I'm not an astronaut. And he said, okay, we have astronauts and we have scientists. What we need is finance people, innovations people. We need leaders to come in and join and help us build the fabric of the, you know, of what can be space industry, commercial space industry can be. So I was honored, I accepted it. And as I like to say, that just basically sucked me into the whirlpool of all the goodness that space industry is. First thing I identified, it wasn't an asset class. So I was like, okay, there's definitely a lot of work to do here.
Absolutely. And I think one of the issues is that space has been such a government sector for so long that now that we're taking those training wheels off and we're really becoming a real private industry, there's a lot of missing skill sets. So one of the struggles has been, how do we get people who have these amazing skill sets like yourself from those traditional industries to prioritize space? Was there a hurdle for you coming in, looking at space in the sense of there's not a real sense of exit, there is nothing but risk, and there's not really a customer base? Did that kind of seem daunting to you coming in?
No, that really didn't concern me, because what I looked at is at the fact that it is an established industry. And it's a very mature industry that does already have a lot of money. And so that opportunity for commercialization, and especially when I came in, new space industry has already existed for a little bit of a time. And so Space Fund, for example, was first VC fund for early stage startups. So to me, all the matrix for what is needed to establish it as as an asset class, as well as also identifying that there's a need for application of innovations. There's a lot of innovations that are just really not applied because in an old space, it's a little bit different, and the transitioning into new space have taken over a decade. And so by the time mature companies implement all of the sideline innovations, the software platforms, not the rockets to get us there, but the kind of things that we can build maybe in cloud or applying different technology, and then that commercialization, right? The space is not an asset class. It doesn't have all that requires to go from the beginning to liquidity event. And so when I came in, I was blessed because that space fund allowed for me to see that matrix, that, okay, there's that establishment of asset classes happening. And I just got so inspired by that. I was not worried. I see it as an opportunity. I don't know how long it will take, but the time doesn't scare me because I built Bitcoin exchange in 2013. So I understand things take a long time, and I'm comfortable with that.
It sounds like you've been on the cusp of these new innovative industries for quite a while. I mean, crypto, the public still doesn't really understand that or grasp it. We still see a lot of issues with it. What do you see as the next big steps that we need to make to get the public on board with space? Not necessarily the companies, but the public itself.
Yeah, I think outreach and communication and doing exactly what we are doing, and really making sure that we are being kind of exclusive. I think one of the big things that we can see is that the non-dilutive funding that comes in, the decision makers in the non-dilutive, an unbelievable amount of non-dilutive funding, maybe need to include leaders from the outside of already established organization to help them understand things that might not be in their purview, because they surely are amazing at what they are doing, but we have to almost mold two worlds, commercial world and government world, together, and that's the intention. So I think that's the one thing that would make a big difference, because different experts from what I call the other side, though we're all on the same side. There's no other side. We're going toward the same objective, which is save America and make sure that we have the freedom and we secure opportunities. There's no doubt we're all on the same mission. So, but I think that would be the most important thing, is actually see leaders from other industries of finance. And I'm not talking about big bankers. I'm talking about those that understand innovation, that are on a leading edge, and then allow them to actually come in and be able to voice what are the blind spots that are they seeing. So then the decision makers that are in charge of that non-dilutive funding hopefully can hear and then make proper adjustments, and what I call the floodgates of all the opportunities will open then.
Absolutely. Now, Marcia, I'd love to bring you in at this point. You come from finance and entertainment. Talk to me about your journey now into space, because it's relatively new that you've transitioned into the space side of things. Is that correct?
Super duper new. Couldn't be more new. I feel completely yeah, it's interesting. I remember Rebecca knows, because we've been hanging out a little bit here. Everywhere I go, she's there. But yeah, I have the fire. I caught the bug. And the thing is, I agree with everything that Irina said 100%. And I think it's just, we're all like, I don't know if y'all guys know the Simon Sinek, who he is, from London, who created the bell curve, that the early adopters, and then we get to this position where it starts to get exponential. And with Chat GPT and AI and all these things, it's a perfect chaos to emerge out of. And I really think the simple solution for this is the public just needs to to understand how far we've come and the connection that they can have with it. I think that is quite literally the missing link. And so, I just saw the show that's coming out called Stars on Mars that I think Lance Armstrong's the first guy that's going to be on the show, and William Shatner's hosting. Whether they fail or they make it, it's irrelevant. They're calling analog now simulation, because when you use the word analog, everybody's like, huh? But I really think analog, so the area that I live, and you're right, we're all on the same side, but we wear different hats. And the place that I am certain to want to be living in is that part that will help fund a lot of space is right here on Earth, meaning the stuff that happens here, the way when is the NFT going to come out for these different things like Space Kind and human, right? What is it? Human always space for human, no, human for space, right? Program.
Yeah,
For humanity.
Human space program or space for humanity.
Yeah. This one.
You're thinking space for humanity.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, can you imagine if someone can actually buy into that and the overview effect? I mean, that's people are naming their companies after that are in space, but there's a real hunger. There is a real hunger for another way of looking at life. And so I'm thinking, what are these other ways that we can introduce space to them right here on Earth while we wait for the technology and wake people up to realize, like, God, this is so close, much closer than we thought. And it'll just snowball. That's just, Irina's right. It will not be difficult. It's just this little, part that we're kind of stuck in, and we need to move and keep moving forward with that. So entertainment, for me, immersive entertainment is a door opener, a complete door opener for space, because, I think I told you, Inara, was over at the SpaceWorks, I called Cyan Proctor to come, and she brought, you probably know Kyle from SpaceX. And, nobody knew why we were in this meeting, and I didn't even know either. And they're like, and next thing you know, we're having lunch and we're freaking out of all the things that can be done as they incubate these startups. How do we introduce that to, with art and entertainment and, but Cyan had a really great idea just for that company right there. She said, rather than having, necessarily, it's great to have 3D and all these things to be printed and as you incubate these small companies for space for space products. She said, the great part about it is the digital aspect of it. You can kind of build around it, see what it's like. And so, but now imagine, that's great. It's all in your world, but imagine that out in public. I mean, it's kind of like an open source idea is what I'm thinking in terms of space and entertainment. I hope that makes sense.
Well, and I'm seeing a lot of first attempts or first footsteps into the water, basically from organizations and companies like, let's put booze in space. Let's send some shoes on the moon and do a marketing campaign. These kind of more gimmick oriented things, which I think, they have their place, but it's a sign that they're at least trying and trying to figure out how they can exist in that realm. We had Mars One, and that was a huge fiasco, but the public was so engaged with this idea that we could mix entertainment and space in some big way. And I think we damaged our reputation as an industry with the public with that, whole situation. But it showed us that people are really interested and they're willing to dream. And we have new organizations like Space Hero bringing on, new show ideas, and now this new one. What will it take, and what do you think the path forward is for the entertainment industry beyond the gimmicks? Like, where are we going to hit that ground that we can really engage with the public?
Geeks, find the space geeks in the entertainment world. Failures are not, as you probably follow from Elon, they're, failures are just a moment to, a way to learn, right? And take in the information. But space geeks, they're all over. They're hidden in all the, different areas of entertainment. They've been there all along. and they're kind of shy about it because they're not really sure really how far we've come. You remember that meeting we had with the guy, George Joblove from the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences. The science part is the part that he leads, and he didn't know a quarter. He literally, I was writing him an email and I was like, man, that meeting was electrifying. I'm like, oh, I don't want to shock him with the word electrifying. I toned it all down. And he writes me back, it was electrifying. So,
Nice.
it is electrifying, right? And if you allow these people to know about more of what's happening and bring them on, I hate to say it, but I just really feel like an NFT or a crypto, a coin of some sort. It's just
Yeah, so this is the thing about it, is that we have to be very careful with technology, and we have to understand what we are doing. And often the technology doesn't function how it appears or what it should be, right? And so I do agree with you with eventually an interesting ways of applications for that could be useful in the space industry. But majority of people, they don't look at NFT. Who cares about who cares about entertainment?
A lot of people do,
Children and parents and kind of general population. And so that's really interesting thing we can do right now. You can use the Midjourney and you can draw a picture through GPT chat using your imagination, using your prompting. And then, you can create worlds. One of the interesting things that I really love, I'm really excited to go do it. Midland is doing this, you basically go there, and Interflight Global is coordinating it all together, but basically you go there on adventure and you tour, you see facilities, and then like a helicopter comes and whatever, and it like picks you up and it takes you to the facility, and you go into Mars or Moon or whatever, and you leave there, for like a couple weeks. And so like the experiential entertainment is so important,
Yeah.
Kids want to see entertainment, adults want to see entertainment, and that immersive becoming so important. I don't know if you guys know, this is not related, but for basically like $50,000, you can go and be trained to be a spy. Like for $500,000, you get to like go through different like matrix, like you go through some kind of training. And so the point here is that people seek that, and they want that. And as we mature and as we start going and having our space industry, right, that's when your digital art will become most important, because how do you create environment, but we do have to be careful with NFTs and tokens, because it can be a gray line, and we can't have space industry work in gray areas. And unfortunately, until SEC, and it goes to finance again, just for different industry, until SEC makes clear decisions about what technology does, how is it, how do you identify it, and we don't have to guess. We can't guess in space. We can't afford that. It's very expensive.
Yeah, I see your point, and that makes a lot of sense. So in the meantime, we can play around with the art in space, right?
Yeah.
And create like NFTs for those. But I agree with you. I understand. I think
there's a thing that CC is saying, that it might be that NFTs will be identified as securities. Until you know that something is not security and it can be labeled, you really don't want to mess with it, because it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of people, I come from the industry, but NFT you have to work with experts. You have to know what you're doing. It can't, if it's trading on secondary listing and it has a value, and how the pre-raises, there's all these points. And one thing we can tell is that SEC is clearly looking at everything. Have they gotten to NFTs? Not yet. but I think they will come through and our regulations will be established because that's what the industry needs. I hope that it doesn't overreach, but let's go back to space because we're now in the SEC and
Yeah,
the
horrible
future of the
conversation.
finance.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, but the fact that they're looking is great. And once again, eyes on anything like this is a good idea. So yeah, I just think, Inara, to your question here, I think we need to seek out those, those nerds, those space nerds, that have the bug already. And somehow we have to express the ability for them to kind of be creative in that area. So like what you said, the immersive entertainment, I really think is going to bridge that. That's just my message, my opinion on that.
Yeah, have you guys played these games right now? Basically, you turn on the TV and it's interactive. So you make a decision. And I think that's a really cool way because you can design and
Like
get people go through. Yeah. And I think I really appreciate what you were saying, Marissa, is that it really is once we put them into the immersive and they can, it's easy, I mean, it's not easy. I don't know how to make movies. So it seems very complex, but what we're seeing is that, I mean, generative AI can create this now, and when I look at something generative AI does, and there's like an arm sticking out of an ear, whatever, I have forgiveness for it. But going through these innovative ways and providing the information that is useful, I think, is the key. It's not just for fun. They need to learn something because then they can apply it in the real world. And they don't need to know that they're learning something. It doesn't have to be, this is the training. It's just for fun, but the information that's placed in there is benefiting the viewers. I think that's where we can change the entertainment. Entertainment is not very positive programming, and we can change that with space.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you on that. Absolutely. And it incorporates the overview effect and all the things. Sorry, Inara, we're not letting you talk.
Oh, no, it's fine. I'm not here to talk. I'm here to listen to you. Both you have amazing views. So
sorry, I was going to say, with the overview effect, and the things that, space kind and the training and all those things, I feel like there will be an enormous appetite for those things as long as they learn about it, as they find out. So I just, there's just a lot of work to do. And you're right, it's not easy, but you know how it is when things go viral, right? Then everyone, it's like, looks so easy, but to get there, it gets, it is a little bit of a leap, but once it's caught, there's no stopping it. And then the rest of the work will come with the real work, which is to get on the moon and get, and to get to Mars, and the actual real money that needs to go into that. About just let the public find out, where we're at. It's all over.
Well, I think one of the deficits that we have in America, and I said this before, is the educational system. If we look at China, for instance, the average citizen in China is very invested in the idea of space, and the youth especially, they understand the importance of it. If you talk to Chinese youth, a lot of them want to go into the sciences. A lot of them want to be astronauts. And then you talk to American children, and it's like, I want to be an influencer. I want to be a social media model. So we have this deficit where spaces has not been embedded in the social fabric of the country. And we don't have the ability to change the educational system wholesale because it's so siloed. There's just no way to really update our current educational system from like factory worker to space entrepreneur, for instance. So we need something dynamic. I'm glad you mentioned gaming, Irina, because it's where I see the biggest possibility of embedding something useful in the sense of people are already there. The youth and people, between 14 and 35, I think is where the real target zone is. People are there spending their time, giving their preference. We can embed real training. And I think the Space Force is looking at this, but we could also embed an understanding of the importance of space. Have you dealt with this as far as in a structured way, Irina?
Space Force Association. I serve on Space Force Association. I co-pilot our Texas chapter, and so with Space Force Association, this is one of our objectives: is to really build the bridge into the education from K to 24. And what's been interesting, and I get really excited about it. One of the things that we're looking at is actually making Roblox world for space. And
cool.
the demographic for Roblox are girls from, I believe it's like 11 to that 24-year-old, and it's women and it's girls that interact with Roblox a lot, and so it gives us opportunity to be able to build the whole world and for them to code in ideas and solutions, and it's all kind of can be an open source, right? Anybody can do it. And so Space Force Association is focusing on that and coming in as as kind of the force of saying it is fun to learn, and there's all these things. And how are you thinking about it? Also synthesis, space, I believe it was SpaceX that Elon made a school for his own employees' children or for his children, and then synthesis became a school. It is really great education, and it's so fun. Now they're actually using AI to hire a lifetime tutor that works with you. It's like only $800 for a lifetime subscription of having AI be working with you and building all of the kind of education around you. That's interactive. So it's all happening right now. It's just we're still not seeing it implemented in traditional schooling and traditional educations, and then mainstream. There's a lot of space. For example, in Russia, space, one of the most popular artists right now, his name is Shaman. He uses space almost in like even if it's just a field of grass, eventually he plugs in space with the visuals, because the truth of the matter is that young people care about space. And I still consider myself a young person, so I care about space. And I see a lot of people in my industry, in my other industries, they actually invest in space. They just might not be active people, were they thinking about investing in space and all of that. And so it's happening. Education is happening, but it needs to be implemented in a traditional way to where Americans can see it through the kind of empowerment of our government, if you would. I would love so much to see Department of Education actually come in and say, we're going to be proactive in this effort to work together for, I don't know how it works with Department of Defense and NASA, and Department of Education, not a politician, but I do know that America needs it, and we need it for I'm going to say this, and this is not pretty, but it is a matter of national security. Implementation of innovations and the development of space is not about going to Mars. It's not about going and doing many things. It is later. First of all, it's a national security, and our freedom is a threat. It's not maybe one day. Things are very, very dynamic in the world right now, and space industry and innovations play a big role. So I feel like Department of Defense could come up and say, hey, we have an extra budget for this. Let's make sure that we do that. Let's make sure that we educate our children. What are we doing with the high schoolers? The high schoolers that are coming out right now, they could have some kind of courses for this space and innovation. Doesn't have to be space, just innovations that allow them to learn and comprehend it. So as they transitioning into universities, they can actually make choices instead of going and being, attorney. Nothing against attorneys, but you can GPT chat it. You know what you cannot GPT chat? To be a mechanic, to be an engineer, to be actually plumber. If you want to GPT chat how to plumb simple pipeline, it will not give you answer. It's not programmed that way. So anyways, I'll stop there.
Well, I think you bring up a really good point. The poison is really embedded, or the cure is embedded in the poison, if you will. One of the problems I see, and it's absolutely a national defense strategy that we need going forward with the youth. One of the problems I see is that American education is very circuitous. So if you want to be an engineer, you have to take basket weaving and poetry and all these other courses. And we talk about a well-rounded education, which is great, but we need to target these courses that are going to be really vital going forward in the future. Our educational system cannot be de-siloed. There's just no time to really, affect all of these systems across the board. But that means that what we can offer is the alternative. We can set up analogs. And I love this new focus on analogs right now. If we were to set up analogs as makerspace hybrids for youth, over a summer course, we can create highly dense courses that will give children the edge in the sciences. So what happens is, if these kind of centers of STEM and space are set up in communities, parents will see that their kids have an economic advantage coming up. They'll start prioritizing this over the summers. And that way we create this natural preference for these augmented courses, and we supplement over summers. We can create scouting programs, working in cooperation with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Space Force Association, and I think in this way we can create these kind of like back-end educational systems to make up for what we can't alter. The good thing about that is we have full control, because these are outside of the traditional realms. We can build them from the ground up. So I'm really interested to see how we can do that. Marcia, in your role, I know you're working with Dr. Morabajah. I know that he's really focused on debris mitigation, but also in how he talks to the public and getting them excited. I see a lot of what he does similar to Jerry O'Neill, like getting the public really excited about it. What is it that made you want to come and work with him? What are you most excited about as far as engaging the public?
It was the same thing I keep talking about, like when you guys speak, or I hear Irina speak, I'm moved by it. But to be honest, and I hope you guys don't take this wrong, I'm so out of the space, like I never knew anything about it, that when you speak, I feel, I don't know, less educated, if you will, right? You feel kind of like, I'm dumb, I'm not sure about all these things. I had no idea, I hadn't thought about this, or, all these different things. And so with Moraba, what attracted me to him, and I was the one that reached out to him, was I'm like, here's a guy who can actually cross over just by existing. Here he is, he's done. I don't know if a lot of people know this about him, and he's spoken about it publicly, but this guy ate garbage, literally out of the garbage cans at one point. So you got to imagine, where he was and where he is. So, there is a certain humanity to him that is so vital and so important and so necessary and so needed. Now, that's just in the way he looks and the way he is. On the other side of him is his mind is extremely engineer and scientific, and it's not like me, right? So sometimes when we communicate, he's like, I don't understand you. I'm like, I know, I don't know how to say this, so I get that from him as well, right? And I think what it is it's that's the reason I reached out to him. He's definitely that crossover figure. There are others, including you, Inara. But his mission is literally to do that, I didn't know that when I reached out to him. So at one point I said, I was meditating, and then somehow connected with you, and I'm not sure if I'm in your movie or in your, or you're in mine, because, when you really have this strong will to get something like this done, the people appear. And so, we did some photo shoots, and I gave him a whole different kind of idea of what, what's possible for him. Literally possible things could be like walking in a fashion show. There's a stylist out of London who works for a magazine called Dazed Digital. And, he's comes from Sierra Leone, which is where Moraba's family's from. And he's like, became a huge stylist, and he's hooked up with a lot of, really big companies like LVMH. And I read this thing, and it said all future fashion shows will be intergalactic. You know what? I mean, how does that happen, right? I mean, so there is this like movement, and that there's help on the outside. We just have to stitch this all together. And so I want to be clear about something, though. When you guys speak, you really speak from the inside, and I'm really an outsider, 100% an outsider. I'm thinking in terms of like Bailey Burns. What can we do with Bailey Burns, the Rubik's Cube girl, right? I think that she's so awesome. Her energy is so great. I'm like, God, what commercial should she be on? What can we program around her? And so I contacted Matt Luber, by the way, Inara. And I said to Matt, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to manage. I mean, I manage finance for my clients, right? But I said, I don't think I want to manage clients. I want to manage projects. You know, I want to help the projects get out. They need more help than the people because, you know, because they have a life of their own, you know, Space Kind, for example, being one of them. I mean, how do we rally and get funding for that? Or it doesn't require much funding, to be honest with you. It just requires influencers, people who are out there, who get it, who understand it, and those geeks. So does that make
Well,
sense?
and how can we tell a long-term story, really? Because I think you're right in the project mindset, but those projects, really, it's the same thing going back to the fact that there is no space industry, that we have to have the groundwork laid. In marketing, it's a long-term story. You know, all these different pieces of marketing and different organizations marketing, they're all telling one big long story of connection with the public. How can we start telling that story in a way that makes sense, that doesn't just stop with one project? How can we interlace them so that what happens is you see it in finance, you see it in fashion, you see it in religion, in arts,
Absolutely.
and everywhere.
That's just it. It's not one project. I'm talking about many projects that will interconnect with each other, right? So, you know, like in Moraba's case, he's interested in literally bringing he calls it traditional ecological knowledge, which has nothing really to do with space and everything to do with space, right? Because it touches on ancestral people who had a lot of knowledge, who followed the stars. I mean, it is a down-to-earth, homey way of connecting with people on Earth. Because you know what, guys? Most of the people don't want to go to the moon. I mean, a lot of people don't, right? But they are fascinated. They look at the world like they would like you to go to the moon, Inara. They have they would like you to go to Mars. They want to communicate from here. They want to communicate from here. But your idea, all right, I have something to share with you. I don't know. Just recently, I was at the Analogs astronaut conference, and I came up. I thought to myself, I don't know if I came up or I saw someone talk about analog life, right? And I thought, oh my God, that's it. Analog life. It's got to be everywhere, right? And I'm like, oh, let me just go and, go get analoglife.com. And I thought, I don't know if I want .com anyway. I just wanted to, register. Guess what? Analog Life, if you want to buy analoglife.com, is $5,000. What does that tell you? It tells you that it's out there. People are thinking about it. Then now I ended up registering something that was more dear to me, which was analoglife.earth, because if you really know what an analog idea is, it's really on Earth and it's a simulation and it's going to go there, blah, blah, blah. So I thought that was more explanatory for what it is. And I wasn't thinking commercial really, but yeah, this is right there. I think we're right there. I could see it right through the glass.
Absolutely. And I think there's also a model that I'm looking at right now that I'm really interested in. Irina, I'd love to get your opinion on this. And that's like the mining town model, if you will, the company town model. There are people that are buying up real estate around spaceports, and the idea of building space cities and building out analogs within those space cities. I would love to see this mature to where what happens is those of us who want to go to space do, those of us who need to go to space do, but then what happens is there are direct benefits to these cities on Earth where space culture is being built out. So, it's kind of like if your family were into mining, you'd be in Miami, Arizona, mining copper, and your whole life would revolve around it. Irina, are you seeing kind of financial purchase or priority going in to this idea of building these cities
happening? It's happening a lot around Midland, movement starting to happen. And then on the coast of right around SpaceX in Texas as well, you start seeing different villages pumping, land that was nothing. Nobody wanted it. Even for free, they didn't want it. It is now thriving, it's benefiting, and the ideas are being built. I think that it is clear that we love we love humans. We love going places and experience things. And so kind of a type of a theme parks and experiences for a whole family to be able to do it from being dropped with a helicopter, more expensive experience, to kind of going through somewhere where little kids could go to is important. And it is happening now, it's very hard to put funding on that. So what's happening is people are buying land. You know, so for the most part, opportunities around are already bought, you know, so, and then the prices have already went to where, you know, the opportunity has left the train.
Well, I could see, you know, once we can make the business case for such startups or settlements, if you will, we could take them to places like Portugal.
Yeah.
One of the targets.
Midland. So Midland is doing this, right? So a lot of spaceports, and this is the thesis, is that basically you have, right now we have spaceports, and spaceports, they do what? They launch rockets, right? And so there's not much visiting to, there's not many experiences, but Midland is approaching it and they saying, spaceport is like an airport, because they also are an airport. They're spaceport and airport. Basically their approach is to say, let's build a whole ecosystem around it, and not just space companies, but what are these different service providers, you know, what are the different experiences, how does it work, since, you know, I think that really it was driven by the fact that Spaceport America and Spaceport Midland, they got the FAA license to do commercial hypersonic testing, you know, because that opens a corridor and it's a quick ride, not yet, but it's going to be pretty cheap. And so family comes and they're like, go fast, you know, let's go fast. People love American roller coasters, you know, basically that's what I hear that is. You know, and so seeing those different experiences, and then biohacking facilities, then there are people that are coming in and saying, well, what I call experience providers, right? So experience providers now, a lot of talks are happening in experience providers communities to say, what can we do for space industry? What kind of communities we can have? And experience providers are your sound meditation people, your meditation, your breathing meditation, your journey to your masculinity, your journey to femininity, all of those aspects of the experiences, different experiences that some people seek. That also interestingly combines it all together in the same, because we all are different and we all want different things. And it does sound fun to go for a week somewhere and be like, okay, I'll drop from helicopter and I'll do like 2 days stuffing out, you know, like that's all. and I'll feel like a hero. And then I'm going to go and I just want to kind of integrate it all. And maybe I'll go through like a sound meditating session with the entheogenic experience to like do the light and stimulate my, do biohacking, psychohacking, and then make sure that also I go with my kids to the things so they get inspired by the ideas, and then we can buy stuff, and we can bring stuff home. It is all happening now. I know that Midland is working toward it. I know other spaceports are as well. It's just taken a little bit of time. And I think the best thing we can do is that we can go out there and say, Marcia, for example, maybe you could go to spaceports and say, hey guys, what are you doing? What experiences you're providing? What kind of art you have? What story are you telling that's going to want me to come back? Because Disney we love theme parks. And so it's not a theme park, but it's that immersive. And then as people visit spaceports, they learn, they find out opportunity. Maybe there's a job posting for something to where you need the marketing professional, and somebody's like, I don't have to go to space to be in space industry.
Yeah, exactly.
I can use my PR or my administration skills or my art graphic design or my ability to write music, or I can paint. So I can have plenty of jobs just working and creating art, because in an immersive experiences, it always changes, it always adapts. You have to move things around. I think that's where it is happening now. We just need to expedite it. And to expedite it, we are the ones that have to go and do it.
Yeah. I feel 100% what you're saying. I can literally feel it, you know, and you're right. We're right there. It's going to happen. It's happening. And I was thinking, you know, got into a dinner and, you know, people don't understand a lot of, like, certain people don't understand this. And you get a little bit of pushback, like, what's analog life and like, why? And, you know, and the other issue that we get here, you probably have heard a lot, is this whole thing of space is actually hurting the earth, right? So those are the narratives that we have an opportunity. I say we, like I'm all in it, but I'm hoping to be.
Oh, you can't leave now. We got you.
You got me in there. Okay. You know, that we have the chance to explain that narrative, you know, to people. And then once you get that on board, when you get those people, it's all downhill after that.
Well, I think part of that is removing that dichotomy of Earth versus space. This idea that space is somehow someplace else, and making people realize that we're living in it. We're in space at all times, and it affects us. And more than just the whole Velcro argument, you know, that our satellites are in space and those regulate everything in our lives, and space weather affects us constantly. But I think from the environmental aspect, one of the messaging pieces that I'm working on is this idea that you're not really the height of environmentalist if you don't have a space strategy. Like, space is really where the biggest solutions for our ecosystem live, and where we can take the most pressure off the system is through space. And so once we have that, we can leverage this to really, like, tip the balance of, here are some of the things that are a problem that may damage, but here are all the things that are benefiting. And when you do that, it just becomes a really clear case of space is the way forward. Irina, going back to the idea city model. Sorry, go ahead.
We see many companies, actually, space companies' engines innovating and creating fuel. You know, there are several companies that are doing it better way, that need to fly, right? The need for power, the need for energy is really pushing forward the innovation. I mean, there's like a fuel from regenerative farming. It's for small rocket, but it's there. They're already doing tests. And so we are adapting into this. And also another thing is, we rely on space industry in a daily basis very, very heavily. And people, I think, underestimate how hard it would be without space. And because we're in that, I want to go back to that national security, because we are in a situation to where the way we live our lives, it can be seriously threatened if we do not take seriously the innovation and democratization of space, and building the technologies, building the innovations. You know, one of my concerns is that we are seeing this push from environmental kind of a structure saying, well, it's trying to prevent things, but I think that you're right. And we need to get manufacturing out. We need to do, but the train has gone. We can't not do space. It's our critical infrastructure that supports the freedom of our lives. And unless we want to speak Chinese and live in a communist party under the Chinese rule, I don't think that this is an option, you know.
Really well said, Inara. That last line right there, this perfection, that was exactly it. Really well.
Well, we can't underplay. There's no way to really overemphasize the threat that China poses to us. Like, we need to be very clear with the public that cislunar space is the ultimate high ground. I mean, if they take cislunar space before us, it's not just about speaking Chinese. It's they will close the door on everyone that's not part of the Communist Party in China. They will dominate that space. Every government has their issues. Every paradigm has their issues. But if America takes cislunar space, lots of people get to play the game. If China does, the game is over. And we really can't, you know, we have to get that messaging out to the public in a big way and help them understand the gravity of that. And then it's right now. I think the biggest danger is the devil making people think he doesn't exist. And the public doesn't realize that we're in the 5 to 10 year gap right now of when that space is taken by someone. So it needs to be us. And if we're going to do that, we have to have a national strategy. The public has to be on board. So I love when I see space, you know, getting into fashion, beauty, entertainment, music, movies, everywhere. I'm seeing it more and more, although I'm looking for it, obviously. I go out scouting, and I'm looking for people like Marcia and Irina that are bringing all these other knowledge bases to space, but space has to be so many places that you can't avoid it. And finally people are like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm
Yeah.
in, we have to kind of wear them down a little bit.
Yeah.
100%. I'm with you on that.
Also, guys, I wanted to point out is
Yeah, go ahead.
that space is very inclusive industry, and I really want the world and Americans to understand that US space industry is inclusive, and it is amazing. You can just go wherever you are, to whatever meetup, to whatever conference that's happening, and you can have the support. And there's not really kind of like, oh no, you're from marketing, go away. In fact, it's probably going to be like, oh no, you don't have experience, that's okay, come on in.
Yeah.
We need people. It's worth it. So it is, as you come into the new reality and you learn new things, you're not expected to know everything. And in fact, life would be extremely boring if there were no challenges at the point to where it's like, oh, I didn't know it, but now I know, and how wonderful it is. And so the reason I'm saying it, Marcia, is because you said that you felt that you didn't know. That's a good thing. And you know what, next year, this time, we're going to be talking about it. You're going to be like, I'm saying all the same things, because in the end of the day, it is fresh perspective that we need. And we want to make sure that in the space industry, when you come into space industry, you feel that you bring something very special.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes. And we need you. We need your fresh perspective. We need your ideas. And the fact that you are new is a good thing.
How about this? How crazy is it? This is it's a small group. I'm going to say this. There is no guarantee whatsoever of this, but because of I got more involved with this one particular person who happens to know, who's close with, not very close, but knows pretty well Michael Jackson's IP lawyer, and so they've been talking about the fact that, hey, Michael Jackson invented the moonwalk. I'm just going to stop there. So
okay, I'm excited. We are broadcasting live, so you probably don't want to go too far with it, but yeah, I'm excited.
Sorry. But that's all I'm going to say. Hey, everybody knows Michael Jackson invented the moonwalk.
I can't wait to see what happens here. There's some great.
I don't know, Inara. I'm just saying.
Rebecca, you had a comment.
Yeah.
I do. Irina and Marcia, both of you, the points you're touching on are so important. I have 2 degrees from Harvard University in social science, and my specialty here in the space domain is how do we keep people from fighting each other? And the experience industry that you were touching on, Irina, and the entertainment industry that you were touching on, Marcia, is so important. As a social scientist, it's one of the first things that I will work to implement, is that social infrastructure that we need. If you've ever been on a cruise ship, you know that they have entertainment all day long. There's always an activity. Do you know why? Because if you let people just sit around, within 48 hours, they will turn on each other and they will start arguing with each other, and they'll destroy their environment and they'll kill each other. And so all of the entertainment and all of the experiences, they're vital to human mental health, to decompressing, to maintaining happiness. And they're also a distraction from the bickering and from how human wills just always clash with each other. It's a mechanism for peace. And I am completely on board with what you've said. And I believe there's a huge entertainment industry for space. We just need to spread the message, because that's one of the most important parts of our social infrastructure that we will need to implement.
I 100% with you, Rebecca. That to me, on a personal level, that's what excites me. I'd like to, see the emotional intelligence. I mean, Jerry Springer died, God bless his soul, right? But, God, making money from things like that, it didn't really set us forward. But, I think everything happens for a reason, so I'm not here to judge or anything, because I'm really get tired of judging and thinking and being around people who judge and all of that. So yeah, Rebecca, that's one of the reasons I adore you, is because you always keep things on the positive, and I want to hang out with people like that. So thank you.
Absolutely. So our time is up for the day, but I'd love to just leave with maybe some bits of advice from both of you, Marcia and Irina. If there's anybody out there watching this either live or recorded, and they're trying to figure out what they can do to get involved with space, what advice would you give them to get that journey started?
Space Kind probably would be a good start.
Space Kind training, yeah, fantastic. By Loretta Whiteside, spacekind.org, fantastic organization. Definitely helps get on the inside and figure out where things are and
come from a good place. Come from a good place, right? Start off, get it going right. Let's start right. We have a chance to fix a lot of problems here, so let's do it.
Absolutely. And Irina,
could you repeat your question?
Yeah. So if there's anyone out there that wants to get involved in space and doesn't really understand how they can play that part, what advice would you give them to get started on that journey?
I think go to meetup, or virtual or in person, or attend an event. And there are plenty of nonprofit organizations that are highly driven to support the ecosystem. Talk to people, and even if you don't know what it is, it's okay, you will find out. That's part of the journey, and opportunities and the need. It's not just the work, it's also opportunities to open businesses, it's to learn, it's to build community and really understand also. I think that it's important to join space community just to understand what's going on and how much of your life actually things that you think are trivial, that you don't pay attention to, relies on the space infrastructure. And I think that's what you do. You go, and then if you have kids, ask them if they want to go to a space camp. Go to space camp, or go to a space museum. Take a picture with an astronaut, because they're touring all over the place. But go out there, learn, expand your world. And you never know, one time going to a meetup, or one time doing joining a Zoom group, if you don't want to do in person, it can change your life and open up opportunities. I know that's what happened for me. One meeting, the reason I do the work that I do here right now in this industry, and everything I do and motivates me, started with taking one meeting with Rick Tomlinson and frankly being confused. What am I gonna do in space? But walking away from there, I felt so much power. I felt so much excitement, and it was so wonderful to be included. And space industry is inclusive. If you'll only go to space meetup,
I love it. That's awesome.
Go to space meetup.
Yeah.
Go to a conference. There's plenty of free conferences. There's all kinds of resources and opportunities for you. And space people are just awesome people.
That's a great one. Only go to space. That's perfect. Great line.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And if there's anything we can do to support your work, please put your links in the chat here, where people can reach you and reach out for questions or support the organizations you're working with. It's been great having everyone here today. You can find us on all the socials as Foundation for the Future, and check out our website at f4f.space.